And I'm Rahana Power.
And today we have Amber Rhodes joining us. Hello, Amber.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So,
Great sound effect.
Welcome to the podcast.
Awesome.
I mean, that was the whole studio audience.
Yes. Of course.
Yes. And our three very obviously same locations.
Yes.
Amber, really excited to have you on. Thank you for taking the time and joining us. Before we jump into all of our questions, I'd like to just get to know you a little bit outside of film for a second.
Okay.
So can you tell us something fun or interesting about yourself?
All right. I was thinking about this for a hot second. So I'm a big outdoor enthusiast. Everyone who knows me is like, oh my gosh, she hugs trees. I literally hug trees. So there's that. Everyone should try it because it really does make you feel good. All right. There's two fun little things. So one day I would like to have an 80s room where the door stays closed. Of course, there's like a cool poster, something from the 80s on there. But the second you open it up, you are just like transported back into the 80s with everything, walls, TV, VCR, all of the swag and the fixtures and the dolls, everything, just so that you can kind of go sit back in there and have this like, like just this sort of calm comfort. So that's one thing. And then another cool thing I'm working on is called Rowdy's Room. And it's essentially like, it's one room, which would be at like different emergency vets. And think of like a Ronald McDonald wing at a hospital for kids and their families, right? But this is for dogs and their families. So there's currently at ER vets right now, there's nowhere for families to stay if their dog is in critical condition. And so it so happened I'm obviously making lemonade from lemons from my past experiences that I am able, I'm trying to get emergency vets to take on a Rowdy's room at their facility so that a family can stay in case, they need to make last minute decisions. So I have a big heart for animals, nature, animals. That's kind of me in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we could just sit and talk about this for a whole hour. Yes. We rescued our first dog not quite a year ago and have been actually going into a lot of testing at the vet for him and everything, and just had to go to a specialist, which is also part ER for dogs. And so seeing like a lot of the families there and a lot of the animals coming in and out, it was really heart wrenching. So I love that you are doing that.
And they're part of the family, and to not have anywhere to go or to drive an hour home or, paying for an expensive hotel when you already know you have $10,000 of vet bills. It's like, this is the least we can do. So I'm hoping to make that a reality soon.
Oh, I love that so much. Bless you for doing that. Oh man.
Thanks.
All right. Well, before I start crying or going off on too much of a tangent, let's talk about you in film. So you are an actress.
I am.
Can you tell us what kind of got you started in that? Like, what made you decide to dive into that?
It's so hard because like you don't want to give like the cliche answer of like I think I was born wanting to entertain and make people laugh, but like truly my hypnotherapist says for sure after my little sister was born, that's is when I was entertaining my parents. And then bless my sister, she's a saint for all of the performances I made her do with me as an introvert to entertain the parents and do all of that kind of stuff. And when I was younger, I don't know what it was, but like I would watch shows, like Gem or any of the movies where they had actors or shows that were like around my age. It was just one of those things where I loved seeing the adventures they went on. I loved seeing, all these things that for me as a kid, I was like, I want to do that. That's like so exciting for me, just to kind of have that imagination. I've always had a very vivid imagination. Like, people do, mushrooms or whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like, I go to sleep and my brain is like so imaginative and amazing. And I even tried out once to be a Mickey Mouseketeer. Yes, I did. So this was when like Brittany and Justin and all those guys were doing it because we're all around the same age, right? And
The height of
so
it, yeah.
I went with a friend whose parents were, was like, okay, let's drive to downtown Minneapolis, St. Paul. And, back in the day, we're in the suburbs, and that was like, oh, such a big deal. And I made it through to the second round. So we were on the news because we like did some cool dances and, like the Walkman and all these moves. And then the second round was the singing round. And for some reason, at that point in time in my life, Beaches was like one of my favorite movies. And it's a really depressing movie. It's a beautiful movie, but it's super depressing. So I sang a cappella Wind Beneath My Wings, and it was like definitely not the pop happy that they wanted. So I got cut.
Oh no.
But was still a cool experience to be like, all right, I made it to level 2, So,
Yeah.
anyways.
That's so
Kind of
cool.
So I feel like it's always
Absolutely.
sort of been instilled in me to want to bring a smile to people's faces, to transport them to, something like that.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay. Beaches. Huh?
I mean, honestly, they should have been impressed that like this young girl was like knew that
Right.
song, knew that movie, and was willing to like. That's a risk. That's a challenge. And they were
was
just
a
like,
choice.
nah. Like
It was a
it's not
choice,
like
yeah.
you wouldn't be willing to then learn some kids bop songs.
Well, right.
Like, come on,
Right? Exactly. They're like, oh, she's too serious for us,
right?
But
ridiculous. Well, they missed out.
wasn't meant to be. Wasn't meant to be.
Right.
Yeah. Ryan Gosling, like he was there back in the day too. So
Yep. You could have been
our
best
moment.
friends with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, could have been.
Man, come on.
Oh man.
What was your first film role then, and when did that happen for you?
Well, okay, so it was back in 2011, which like feels like yesterday, but also 100 years ago. So the guys from I Hustle Entertainment, which a lot of us know, Ryan and Brian, they brought me on this project with some other great Minnesota talent. Sasha Andreeve and Paul Cram were my co-stars, and I played like the hot blonde who Sasha Andreeve's character liked, but then he was kind of like, I'm hot stuff here and I don't need you. And so I fell for the roommate. Anyways, it was this very funny, nice comedy, but it was kind of one of those things where it's like, I knew I wanted to do that. I loved that, but that solidified it for me. I was like, oof, being on set is where I'm supposed to be, where my heart is, and where it's like those challenges, like sometimes I will be done with the film or a commercial or whatever it is. And however challenging it was, as soon as they yell cut, I'll be like, I have no idea how I just did that. It's like this weird thing that happens to you. It's like this possession where it's like, all right, we're rolling. And you just kind of, you go, all right, here's my job. This is what I got to do right now. I have to get to this place. And, it's so cool. So I really love that. And so those guys gave me my first opportunity doing that. And then I actually took like a few years break before I like really dove in. And then Z-Fest was like a wonderful, as I'm sure you guys know about that. So they are a wonderful place to encourage people to make films. And, it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, we all want to make films, but like when you kind of have a purpose and a reason to do that. And so that was, another good reason to hop into some films to go, all right, now I'm really going to start getting into this. So.
Right.
Oh, wow. So kind of touching on, I'm going to sort of jump around here, touching on what you just said about once it's action until it's cut, you're really zoned in and almost blacked out to the point of this is my job. I have to do this. Like we're on. Can you tell us a little bit about your process as an actor? Maybe before process getting into character, learning about them, or even like on set getting into that moment?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I've learned a couple different ways of doing this. One is I trained with Anthony Bova out of New York. He's awesome. And he did more of like the sense memory where you're taking things from your own life and bringing them up front and kind of using that, right? And then you have the other modalities where it's like you don't have to use real life stuff, but you can imagine it and create it as your own. So I definitely think that it's dependent on what the role is asking for, right? If there's a situation I've been in where I have to now bring some tears, it's not my favorite place to be, but I have, 1, 2, 3, XYZ instances where I say, okay, let me use sense memory here. so what I usually do is like, if there's a time where the camera's like, hey, we need a tear falling from your eye, or we need, some sort of deeper emotion, I will, I'll put some headphones in, or I will just kind of like take a moment to myself, and I'll be like, let me know when we're about a minute away from shooting. I'll go get on set, and I'm kind of just doing my best to just stay in that place as much as I can. And then if they say, hey, we're rolling, so anytime you're ready. And sometimes I'm ready right away. And then sometimes I'm like, I take a whole nother minute, which feels like an eternity, I'm sure, to everybody. But in order to get there, you have to kind of channel those things. And, I've definitely gone to some dark places in order to bring that stuff up. But, as soon as you do it, you can definitely just sort of release it and appreciate it for being an experience in your life. And, you were able to grab those emotions from that memory, happy or sad or whatever it was. So that's usually what I do.
Right. That's funny that, not funny, but it's interesting you bring up tears, because like there have been some films that I've had that require that. And
yeah,
it's interesting seeing every actor's kind of process through that to get there. Because they're like, the first film I ever made was a student film, and then it had like the scene where the guy had to be emotional and cry because someone had died. So it was like he had to listen to music too. His process was, give me a minute, let me listen to something, and then he did the scene. So it's just like, oh wow, okay.
Everyone's so different on that. And the first feature film I was on, which hopefully we'll get to talk about at some point in time during this podcast, but there was a time where it's funny because sometimes camera director, whomever, will be like, okay, hey, we want one single tear to fall down your face. Okay, don't ask for much. Okay.
Right.
So it's like, no pressure. And so I remember hearing about, hey, if you put Tiger Balm under your eye, it'll like make your eyes start to just water on their own and tears will fall. And so I was like, all right, this is cool. Right. So the scene was like this slow dancing scene with her, her husband. He didn't know that she was unfortunately going to take her life. This is a movie about the aftermath of suicide. And so she knew all of this turmoil was in her head. And so that's why the tear falls down. And so they're slow dancing, kind of having this beautiful moment together. And so I, right before the scene, I'm, Tiger bombing it up under my eyes. And it's like, if you guys have smelt that stuff, it's like icy hot, it's like very like, that smell.
Yeah.
So it's close to your eyes. And again, it's supposed to help that. For whatever reason, I don't know if I like didn't drink enough water that day or whatever, but the tears were not flowing. And so I'm slow dancing with this actor, and he knows like, hey, she's, the camera's on her. She's got to get this tear going. He starts to try to blow on my eyes to get the Tiger Balm to activate. So he's like, we're like, camera can't see him, we're slow dancing, and he's like, and I was like, oh, this is so awkward. What's happening right now? But I'm trying to like stay emotional here. And then this guy is like blowing in my eyes. And it's like, he was trying to help. And it was, such a funny moment now to talk about it. But in the time I was like, I can't get there. And my eyes watered up, but a tear never fell. And they're like, no, we liked it. And I was like, it's
okay.
That is asking a lot, though. Like, it's one thing to say, okay, we need you to cry. And it's another thing to say, we need you to not cry. Like, maybe get teary-eyed, that's fine. But, like, one single tear.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, nowadays, I'm sure they just come over with
what we get.
Yeah, a drop of glycerin and then be like, okay, roll. It's falling.
Right. Or some
like, suddenly pan to them. Yeah.
But, like,
exactly.
Yeah, I had one other scene that had, like, another, like, teary scene. And it was, like, she had to go somewhere to get those tears. It was like we weren't sure. Like, is she gonna cry? Is not. It's okay.
She just like loaded her eyes up with.
I know. But she actually did it. It was just like, wow. She went somewhere to get those tears, basically.
Okay.
So
yes,
that's part of the process too. It's like
it really is.
Wow.
It really is. I mean, sure, everyone can like think of a sad moment, but to like really almost like relive that sad moment, to feel everything.
Yeah, to channel that. Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. That can definitely be rough for sure, but effective.
Right. And aside from icy hot in the eyes and whatnot, is there like a role in filmmaking that is intriguing to you that you find?
Man.
Any
I feel like,
process.
yeah, no, I mean, it's like, obviously every single position in filmmaking is crucial, because without one of them, like, the film's not getting made, or it's not going to be as good of a film. And so, like, every single part is so amazing. And so it's like, as far as the intriguing stuff goes, to me, it's like there's parts that have my heart to be like, that make the movie, like the art department and like practical special effects makeup. Like, oh man, you know what I mean? Love CGI. It's wonderful. Don't get me wrong. But to have, you know, the art department that's creating this environment for you to transport you wherever you are, right? To an enchanted world, to a different time era. And then to have, you know, effects, makeup effects that are, you know, looking so real and moving on this person, instead of being like, oh yeah, I can tell that's fake, you know, like that's a whole treat right there. And I mean, obviously then you have like the first AD and the editor, who are like, you know, like the first AD is like such a hero of keeping everyone together and being like, all right, here's what's going on, everybody, you know, like, I think that's such a strong position that, you know, I feel like maybe one day, you know, whether, you know, I've co-directed in the past, but like, you know, I would love to direct solo, and I would love to first AD, because I mean, I really do think that I have that type of like organization and can like really wrangle them in, but I appreciate that role so much. And then editor is like, they're like saints for the amount of hours that they have to look at this footage and these actors and hear them and their close-ups or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm sure they just get so tired of editing the stuff, but they put it all together. I mean, it's incredible. It's like, hey, here's all this beautiful content, and sometimes not even all that beautiful, and they're like, let me work my magic here and transform it, you know? So like that to me is super beautiful. But to go back to the special effects makeup part, I have luckily been blessed to have gotten to work with some, you know, people and work on some films for that kind of stuff. Ryan Shadley, super talented makeup artist in town here. He brought me on a few times. And one of the times I do think is worth mentioning, to, you know, bring, you know, we're bringing films to life with makeup and effects, and you're like, oh, what's that thing made out of that you had in the film? And it's like, oh, that's just some fabric and some, you know, glaze of something. And you're like, how did that look so real? You know, it's like to actually know what the things are made out of. But one time he brought me on and he said, hey, can you come do a cast, you know, a face cast and a chest cast for me, right? And it was for a Minnesota film that was starring Christopher Lloyd. You guys remember him, right? From Back to the Future?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, Doc, yeah. So he's like, hey, can you come down and do this face and chest cast? So I get there and I was like, all right, so what are we doing? You know, we've done this a few times before, you know, he's cast my face. And so I was just like, all right, I'm happy to help, you know, be the second set of hands. And he's like, all right, so it's Christopher Lloyd. And I was like, oh, wow, that's like, it's a big deal. And he's like, so we have to do a head cast and a chest cast. And it was like, okay. And I was like, well, where's he going to lay for the chest cast? And so we're, you know, laying down all of his blankets and pillows and then covering them with garbage bags, because it's a very messy process. If you guys have ever seen, you know, casting a face to get like an exact replica, you're using the stuff that you pour on called alginate, and then you're covering it with these plaster bandages in order to create a hard casing for them to live in, to then pour in, you know, your silicone or whatever you're using to make the exact replica of a face, right? And so he comes to the studio and, you know, he just flown in. I don't think he really like, you know, knew he was in Minneapolis. He was just like, all right, let's do this, right? And he, you know, he's an older gentleman at this point now. And he's like, you know, we're like, do you want us to play classical music? You're Christopher Lloyd. Holy shit. Like, this is a big deal. So we're like, hi, Mr. Lloyd. We need you to take your shirt off and we're going to take some pictures of your chest, because at that point, you know, Ryan was going to have to replicate, you know, all the chest hair and everything about it. You need it to look the same. Yeah. And so it's like, hey, nice to meet you. Take your shirt off, you know? And so it's like very awkward. So, you know, he's over there, he's standing there and, you know, he takes the pictures. We do the whole thing. And so we have him lay on this table of garbage bags, you know, to pour the stuff on him. And my job, I have rubber gloves on. My job is to cover all of the chest hair with Vaseline so that the alginate doesn't stick to it when we pull it off. Okay, mind you, many men have a lot of chest hair and chest hair on their nipples. So I will say I am one of the few women that have touched Christopher Lloyd's nipples. So I'm like slathering this Vaseline, mind you, like all over this
Taxi,
man's chest.
Back to the Future.
Yeah, right. You know, you're rewatching. Go. So I'm slathering this on, and I mean, I'm being very generous with this because I have had this process done to me, and I know you cover all the hair so it doesn't stick. Slathering it on, slathering it on, awkward, and so we're using some alginate that he had said at the time, like. It was a different alginate. So I think it was because it was a large mass, like we needed to use so much more of it. So when it came time to take it off, for some reason, it didn't set right, which never happens. Cause like, I'm in the hands of pros here. And we're all like, what happened? This is so weird. So like we got a bad batch of the alginate, of course, with Christopher Lloyd, right? Oh, and so we're pulling this stuff up and it's almost like giving this man a slow wax. And so he's like, oh, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is so bad.
Oh no.
So we're like lifting it up and I'm in there with scissors trying to like cut some of his chest hairs so we can get this thing off. Anyways, long story short, we eventually got it off and he was such a good sport about it. And the design, everything went beautiful, it's because of the, malfunction of the material, but everything turned out great. And then when it came time afterwards, he should have just ran out of there, but he didn't because he's a good sport to do the head cast. He was like, be sure to put enough on my eyebrows. I'm like, it wasn't my fault. I swear to you, it was not my fault. So when it comes to that, the special effects is like, there's so much that goes into the before, the pre-production part of it that I think doesn't always get recognized. So that was fun for me to be a part of. But yes, all of those 4 areas are very intriguing and ones that I greatly appreciate.
That's such a fun story. I mean, I'm sure less fun. I'm sure it had been less fun for him.
Yeah, I think like my parents texted me that day.
Fun.
They're like, hey, how's your day? And I was like, oh, it's been a weird day.
Weird day. That is the best way to put that.
Yeah.
Right.
Very.
But so fun to be able to like look back on that.
Oh yeah. Most definitely.
That's so funny. So talking about Christopher Lloyd, I'm curious, and you had mentioned like the 80s room and all of that era. So I'm curious, do you have, because I know not everyone does, do you have like any favorite actors, actresses, whether it's
wouldn't it be funny if I said like
or maybe right now?
Yes. Wouldn't it be funny if I just said like some random millennial? You guys would be like, oh, that's fine. But no.
Timothy Chalamet or something.
Yeah. Something like everyone says that, he's a good actor, but no, yes, of course. I would say my heart, my appreciation definitely lies with the 80s with my favorite actor is Patrick Swayze. From The Outsiders to the original Roadhouse to one of my all-time favorite movies, Dirty Dancing.
Yep.
There's just, right? It's just so good. It's so classic. If you guys haven't seen it, anyone out there hasn't seen those movies, please do yourself a favor. Go see them. But there was something about him that was like sort of like this calm assuredness, like he had your back. And I don't know if that was just who he was as a person, because obviously all of us as actors bring a little bit of ourselves to our roles too. But there's just always, just like that thing about him that where you're like, I just feel safe with you. And I don't know, just like a very genuine, like, I just thought he was a great actor to bring all these different roles to life. And I would say he's my favorite. I mean, if you're asking me for now, current people, it's so hard to be like, favorite actor, because there's so many good ones, but like ones I'd love to work with, I'd be like,
ooh, yeah,
Keanu Reeves. I hear he's amazing and super nice. Were you? Yes. Keanu Reeves would be a super treat. Jason Bateman, Kristen Bell. I mean, so many talented people out there. But I think they'd all be really fun to work with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that you were also thinking that.
I know.
I feel like
so
Keanu
wild.
Reeves is like the nicest person.
I heard that.
So
Well, he's marketed as such, but.
Well, I think that's great because people tell me all the time that I'm too nice. So, I mean, maybe we can act together and just be so nice, on set.
It can just be the nicest movie
with Ryan
ever.
Gosling, that one too.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
totally.
Oh, that's fabulous.
What's? I guess we already touched on the process a bit, but do you have a favorite part of your process that I don't know?
I would say okay, well, obviously it's like getting to create and bring to life a character from words on a page. That is so magical to me, because it's like I get to read the description on the paper. I get to get direction, of course, from the writer, the director. But I get to, as me, Amber, I get to make choices on, okay, here's this character, here's my info about her, but how am I going to bring her to life? It's like, and I think that's the beauty of it. You see, two different actresses in a movie. You see Angelina Jolie, and you see, Julia Roberts. They're playing the same character. They're both going to do it crazy different, right? And so I think that part for me is so fun to see. It's almost like I wish they would make a movie where they hired two separate casts, right? And they didn't tell anybody about it. They're like, we're going to make the same movie with two different casts. If anyone takes this idea, I came up with it first. I'm just kidding. Like, not you guys, someone on the internet. But no, I think that would be so fun, wouldn't it? To be like, okay, here's our main lead characters, and let's see how they tell the story. So I think, as far as like my favorite thing with my process, is getting to interpret it my way, and then bringing that person to life from the words on the page. So, and then of course getting feedback to be like, yes, that's what I was thinking, or, cause like you really want to make sure that you're doing a good job for your writer and your director as well. So
absolutely. I love that idea. It could be sort of I don't know if you know or remember the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to rewatch it. I can picture the cover, but I'm like, oh, I can't remember the movie itself.
It's brilliant. It's one of the couple movies that I have on VHS.
Yes.
But
I love that you still have VHS.
Yes, I have a handful. No VCR anymore, but you know what? You just never know.
Maybe you got to just go to like a Savers or somewhere and pick one up. Exactly. I'm going to find one from my 80s room. So if I find another, I'll let you know.
Yes. There we go. But it could be like that, except one cast is the first half and the second cast is the second half.
Yes.
But it's the same characters doing the same thing and
great.
Experiencing it in a totally different way.
Yes.
And that,
because like, I think I love that, because then you're kind of like, whoa. And now I have to like rewrap my head around this cast, but I'm in the same story, right? I feel like, did you guys ever watch soap operas?
Yeah.
No? Okay. So I think when I was like younger and in my teens, I liked them, like Days of Our Lives, Young and the Restless, obviously Catch Me on the Right Day. I'll probably like flip to it still and be like, oh my gosh, it's the same people, which is amazing. Like it would be so fun to be on a soap. But, when like, they're like, today's role of Peter so-and-so is played by whoever. And you're like, what? This is not the Peter I'm used to. But all of a sudden you have to just sort of accept it. Right. And you're like, okay, this is how he's doing it. Okay, he's having an affair. Oh, he stole this. Like, you're just kind of like, you have to sort of accept it. But I think that's such a cool thing to go, all right, well, this actor is doing it different than this actor. And I don't know. I just think that there's this beauty to it. I mean, think of all the things in life where if, whether you're having, if you meet somebody, for friendship or relationship or whatever it is, think of, the different type you could have with other people, or if you're on set, I think that's just such a cool thing to think about, that you're watching this movie and you're enthralled with it, but you're like, had you replaced one or two of those actors, it'd be a whole different movie to you. Right. But you don't ever know that, because we don't get the opportunity. So maybe someone will listen and do one of our ideas.
That would be very cool. I feel like a kind of an example, and it was an example because they had to do it. And so they decided to kind of do it in a fun way, but was, what's it called? The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Oh,
so it was Heath Ledger's last film, where because he passed away during it, they had to recast his role with, and they did it with Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell, I believe.
Okay.
And so it was essentially, it was Heath Ledger, like outside of this imagination area.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But, and then once they went into that, then like it was these different actors each time they went in were in a different place. And so that's kind of cool. I hadn't really thought about it in that way. I was so like the one time that I've seen it, you're so fixated on the fact that like, oh, it's different because of this. and so you're not thinking about
now
it.
I want to watch
thinking
it
about it
and
from
see
this
how
context.
and see how they did that. I mean, that's
Curious if they
beautiful
did
though,
all have their own
obviously.
spin.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's such different actors, but I'm assuming that they paid some homage to Heath then by sort of jumping in the role, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Very
now I
cool.
want to watch it again too. I feel like that was so long ago. That
I know. I got to start like writing down some of these movies we're talking about today.
Right. We all have homework
circle
after
back.
this.
Yeah, totally. Dirty Dancing, the Heath Ledger movie. What's the other one we said?
Sliding Doors.
Sliding Doors. Thanks, I already forgot.
Yeah.
So funny.
So Amber, you've been doing this since you auditioned to be a Mouseketeer, which is a wonderful thing that a lot of kids today probably don't even know what that is. It was amazing, right? And you should YouTube it because I'm sure it's on there. But if
I wish somewhere there's a VHS tape with my news tape on there of this. I got to just find it. You know, my parents probably kept it. God bless them for that. So just got to seek it out.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
That would be so fun. So if you could tell younger Amber something, anything, having lived through the things you've lived through, worked on the things you've worked on, experienced everything, what would that be?
Oh, that's a great question. It's like layered because it's like if I'm telling my younger self something about acting versus like life, but maybe there's a blend of the two worlds, you know? I mean, obviously it's like if you want something badly enough, stay the course, right? But while you're doing that and putting in your efforts, like have fun and don't have like an end game, or an expectation. Just like put it out there because your heart is in it and you love it. And, just like enjoy. I know it's like enjoy the journey, whatever, eat, pray, love, or whatever, love, live, laugh, love. But it's like totally enjoy the journey. Like instead of, because like you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment if you're like, oh, I didn't get to this one thing that I wanted. It's like if you want it badly enough, you don't give up on it. Keep putting yourself in those positions of how you can get there, but also like be super stoked about your journey along the way, right? So I would definitely tell her that for acting, but I feel like I would tell her that for like real life stuff too, like obviously we always want to remind our younger self that, you're beautiful, you're loving, you're caring, you're smart, like you have an amazing heart, and just like life is going to throw you some shit. And no matter what happens, don't lose those qualities. It's so easy to let fear and let other things sort of shut you down, right? And lose those qualities. So I feel like I would just tell her to embrace those things and to never just never lose them, like no matter what.
Right. Yeah. Perseverance, I'd say. And
perseverance. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just
like you said, the journey. So.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we as humans get caught up in the destination. I'm guilty of it all the time. And then you're kind of like, oh, but here's these beautiful experiences that I'm getting along the way that I'm either just getting to enjoy or feel awful things from, or, but those are still experiences. And then, it's like, maybe I'm learning something from this. Sometimes I will say like, all right, universe, I'm good on the learning. You don't have to teach me anything else. Right. But yeah, just really enjoying all the little parts, and just like when you're on set to just be present and, look at your little crafty table, to appreciate so-and-so doing their role over here. And to just, those moments where you're like, it's a bunch of hurry up and wait. And here we are. And, sometimes it's like you sort of forget the magic of it. And you're like, this is actually pretty cool that I get to do this. Someone wanted me to be here to do this. And so just reminding my younger self of that, and heck, reminding all of us adults of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right now, I'm working on a film I've been writing since 2019, and for whatever reason, things have been fell through, and like on the writing side, and or just weren't coming together right. And like finally now we're at that place where it's going to be made here this summer.
Awesome.
So it's just kind of like, it's been a long,
so exciting
5 years for that. But yeah, like you said, it's like I often think about that destination of creating the thing,
Yes.
but then it's like it's different when you arrive at it, you know, because
It's not always on our timeline, right?
yeah, it's not what you expect, right? Mm-hmm.
I feel like there are certain things in life where I can accept things not being on my timeline easier than other things in my life where I'll be like, but, so that's challenging as, someone who's been writing this since, 2019, you're like, all right, like, let's do this. You don't want to lose your momentum either. Right.
Right.
So
Yeah. So easy to get lost in the shuffle because it's just, yeah, it's a lot. It can be a lot, especially in film.
Absolutely.
Because in Minnesota, it's like, we've seen films like Amber, you and I have probably been, and Rahana have all been around long enough to see films make it all the way to post-production and then never get made. So
totally.
Which is unfortunate because it's like I don't know why films just
so much work goes
don't
in.
get pushed
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, something does happen there sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's all about, like you said, that perseverance and that momentum. I mean, that is hard to keep, but man, when you get to that finish line and it's all edited and you're ready to, put it out to the world, it's such a great feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of the destinations or maybe the edifices along the way, have you had favorite roles or played anything in the past that you are really proud of, or things that you look back on and think, yeah, I did like that, or maybe it was unexpected. I don't know. So.
Yeah, I'm thinking about two roles in particular. The first being the first feature film that I ever did. That was back in it was probably about 11 years ago now. Yeah, somewhere in there. 10, 11 years ago. And it was my first feature film. I mean, heck, it was everybody's first feature film. Everyone was very green. It was our first go. This was non-union, mind you. And so there was no regulations on any of this stuff. And so, everyone was just like so excited to be doing this. And it was a beautiful story. It was about the aftermath of suicide, and it was going to go to schools and like help people. I mean, it's wonderful, and it is helping people for sure. But, there was parts of it that we were learning, everyone was learning, right? And so I played the mother of two daughters and had a husband, and she has her own inner turmoil from her past. I think she was part of something where I don't know if it was like drunk driving or what it was, but her friend passed away and she lived, and she just couldn't handle the sadness and the guilt of all of that. And so she ended up taking her own life. But the story's more about the aftermath, like all the people that get affected by suicide, and it's not just the one person, right? Yeah. And so in the film, I had to attend my own funeral, lay in, a coffin, and they had the big picture and the flowers, and it was very strange, to be like laying there. And every time they hit cut, I was, on my phone, I was like, hey, go on Facebook. Okay, hey, we're normal, we're alive, do these normal things. And then I would say like the best part of the story, I should say, it's quite traumatic for me. But so there is a part where they, she's on the gurney, they zip her up in a body bag, right? Okay, we've seen this 1,000 times in all the cop shows and whatever it is, right? No big deal. Mm-hmm. So we're getting ready for the scene, and, the family is supposed to, it's like raining out. I think they had like the police or the fire department out to create the rain. I mean, it was it was beautiful. Everyone really pulled together to make the scene, happen. Yeah. And so it was very cold though. And so the families, the dad and the two daughters were supposed to kind of be out there, watching the gurney get pushed into the hearse and then the hearse drive away. Right. And so we're practicing this, and the guy said, the body bag we bought it's too big. It's like falling off the sides. It's just too big. So the guy with the hearse, he's got one. It's been washed. Like, can you take this for the team here? And I was like, wait, okay, what? So it's been washed. So probably no like blood traumas, but like dead people have definitely been, okay. And it was like this, like, we need to shoot the stuff. Like, we're off schedule. Like, like this panic. And I was like, okay, let's just get this in one take. Like, this is awful already, right? So yeah, they get that body bag up on the gurney, and mind you, so I'm wrapped in this blanket in the body bag, and they have to set a sandbag and a camera for a POV shot on my shins. So I'm like locked in this thing, right, with this heavy camera POV. to do the zip up shot. And so I'm like, okay, yep, let's just do this. Like, oh my God, this is so awful. And so they go, okay, here we go. All right, everyone, we're rolling. And so we do the thing, they zip it up to like here, and they quick put me into the hearse, and then they drive away. And then there's someone, he was in the hearse. He was so great. He zipped it down. He was like, you're okay. Like, everything's okay. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad that's over. Oh my God, I have the heebie-jeebies, like, blah, blah, blah. And we come back around, and the director was like, we got to do it again. No one noticed that the dad and the daughters weren't outside. No one went and got them. And it was like, oh my gosh. So we do it again, and at this point I'm like getting a bit in my head about it and emotional, even though I wish I wouldn't have, but it is what it is. And so we're like rushing, we do the scene. They're like, okay, we got it. And I was like, I went downstairs and I just lost it. And I was like, you guys are going to figure out some other shoot to do for like the next 2 hours. And I'm going to go shower for the next 2 hours and clean myself physically and mentally of this, but makes for a great story now. So that was a very memorable role. The other role, which I think, Alan, you may have seen the movie that I came up with again, Ryan Shadley, was called Cammie Leon Should Have Said No. And so it's where this character, into a cat? So she morphs into all these different things. So basically she has like this family curse where there's like 4 days a month where she should not leave the house, because anything touches her skin, she will morph into, right? She's a chameleon. And the only way for her to get back is to to touch another blonde girl to get back to her normal self, which is, kind of funny. And so throughout the movie, she gets asked out on a date, and you see in the calendar that's like, do not leave the house this day. And she says, F it, I'm going to do it. I want this date. And so, throughout the day, she kind of runs into these things. And, like at one point in time, she bumps into a teenager with braces and freckles. And now she's in the car and she's got braces and freckles, and she's like, I can't drive. And she's freaking out. And then, she sees like this blonde girl. And so she's like, oh my gosh, you're so pretty. Like, I can't believe like how lucky we are that you, a blonde girl, are right here so I can get back to normal, so I can get to my date. So she touches her magic, sounds and special effects pop up, and she's back to her normal self. She then, encounters a woman who hands her a cat. She's like, cat face, I need to get out of here. And so these were, great practical effects I got to wear. And then last but not least was, we're at like a Japanese restaurant, and I'm there with my date. It's so exciting. And the waiter spills coffee on me. And so I get up, oh my gosh. And I fall in the lap of, Ryan, a bearded man with a goatee. And so now I'm looking at the bathrooms, female, male. I don't know what to do here. And so she goes, of course, into the female. And I will say, when I have a goatee on, it's like a very, like, I could be David Spade's brother. It's a whole thing. And so I'm in the bathroom and I'm like, oh my gosh, like everything about me is starting to change, like even my anatomy, right? And so I'm like, I need to touch a female girl. I got to get back to my date. And of course, I was lucky enough to, enlist one of my girlfriend actors, because it's like, you're like, I need to find a handful of blonde girls to play these opposite roles of me. And so we're, in the bathroom, she comes out of the stall, and, at this point I'm kind of dude right now, right? So I'm like putting on the swagger, like, what's up, girl, right? Because I'm being a dude. And so I give her a kiss, and, she's like, whoa, what? And then she backs away, and now I'm a girl. And she's like, comes at me again. And she was like, wow, like that was great. And I was like, I gotta go, so like this thing. And we did win Best Kiss at Z-Fest that year. So that was pretty funny. And then I go out back to my date thinking, I'm just sitting here. I'm going to eat my dinner. Everything is fine now. Right. Mm-hmm. And I shove a piece of food in my mouth because I'm just like, this day has been a shit show. And I'm like, oh, this is so good. What are we having here? And he's like, it's the special of the night. It's fresh, wild caught octopus. They actually say it's still living for the few minutes after they make it. And so it's like, she's like, her face just drops, and she's like, what? And all of a sudden you start to see like the tendrils of her hair raise, because it's like, I'm screwed. Right. So that was really fun. I loved that role. That was fun to come up with, sort of my rom-com ideas mixed
Yeah.
with some sci-fi stuff. And Louis Anderson, when he was alive, he picked that as his favorite movie that year. So
that's great.
Fun.
that was
That
cool.
does sound like a really fun role, like a
Yeah.
really fun movie.
Thank you. Yes, it was. And it was natural for me to play this sort of like erratic, excited person, because there is a lot that I am definitely happy and excited about in life. And when it comes to creating, it's like, I mean, I'm a self-taught silversmith, and like I've learned all of these crazy things in life, you know, freshwater surfing, you know, just so many fun things, because I not only love to do what people I love to do with them, but I just love to learn. I love to challenge myself. I love to, like, I feel like we should all never stop learning, right? Like keep growing, keep trying things. It's obviously good for our brain, but it's just like, it's fun. Let's try it. Right. I don't know. I think that's fun.
Yes, absolutely. So that's a really fun role. It's a really fun film. And it makes me curious, like, do you have, I'm trying to think of I have like 4 questions in one. I want to think of the right way to word it. I think I'm just going to go with what films so far have been sort of the most influential and impressionable on you when it comes to, you know, the films that you're making, or you know, maybe the films that you hope to make.
Yeah.
And the way that you go about it.
I love that. Okay. So, that's such a good one. All right. I would say there's some kind of a mix between, you know, like Bridesmaids meets, Flight of the Navigator, you know, like some of these like sci-fi movies, like Aliens, you know, it's like one of my all-time favorite movies. The second one was Sigourney Weaver. And it's like, to see a strong female lead play like this badass and, you know, do her stunts. And I don't know if you guys have seen the new Ryan Gosling movie.
Yes.
Since we are talking about him. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
But it's like, there's so many things that are required for a film, and actors and or stunt people, and you know, again, effects and like all of these things, where it's like, that to me is so inspiring to see that pulled off. Because I think to myself, man, I would love to play like a superhero role. Like I did at one point in time get to be put in Hoists, and that was an amazing team with an amazing actor that I got to co-star with, and so I got to be put in these hoists and lifted up, right, to kind of be this superhero. And Dan and Damien kind of came up with this, and I acted opposite of Rod, and I got to have stuff shoot out my hands. And I mean, it was like really fun to do those things, but to see these superheroes and people like doing their own stunts, you know, like Tom Cruise, I hear he does his own stunts and stuff like that. I'm always so inspired yet like terrified of that, because I was like, I feel like I would be like the clumsiest giraffe out there being like, yeah, pow pow, I got you, and they're like, what is she doing, you know? Like it would just be such a disaster. I'd be like, no, I'm gonna do my own stunts. They're like, get her out of here, she's not gonna do them. But I would really want to, you know. It's like, I think there's like this, so like those roles, I mean, obviously you have like Bridesmaids, and you have this strong cast of women, and you know, Megan and all these people to be like pulling off some raunchy, funny stuff. Like I really can appreciate that. And I think that's just so fun and great to work together and do that. But then there's the element then of, you know, you've got, you know, Thor and all of these things where there's nothing that's actually existing, but you are having to really sell it as if it is, you know what I mean? And I think that would be so incredibly hard, but man, I would love the challenge. So I would say that those types of movies are the things that really inspire me.
So what you just said made me wonder, is there possibly, other than doing like a that level of like superhero sci-fi, is there a genre that maybe you haven't been able to touch yet that that's like on your bucket list for sure?
Gosh, it's like, I've done, you know, drama, I've done comedy, I've done a little bit of the sci-fi. It's like, for me to be able to, I think what would be really cool would be to be a series regular on a show where not only you can, you know, whether that's, again, drama, comedy, sci-fi, whatever it is, to be able to bring, like, not only develop that character over time, right? Like you get to become, you know, this person. If you think of some of these great shows, you know, you've got One Tree Hill and, like, you know, just so many shows where it's like these characters you get to be a part of so much of their life, right? And they've grown on the show. So, like, to be able to grow my own character as a series regular and then work with a cast and crew as, like, this family, to be like, we are here together bonding and creating. I think for me, that would be just like everything. That would just be such a fun challenge. But as far as genres go, I mean, I've also kind of done horror. I'm trying to think of any genres that I haven't done. I guess it's more of like that physical superhero or, you know, more stunt heavy things that I haven't done that definitely intimidates me. But obviously with the right coaching and, you know, if they were like, all right, you have to get a 6-pack by this time and you've got to do this, I'd be like, okay, yep, we can do it. Yep. It would definitely be challenging, but, like, I would love the opportunity.
Have you had stunt training before?
Not really. I mean, just on that one day that I got to kind of be hoisted up in you know, this contraption. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, they just sort of walk you through everything, like, hey, here's what you got to do. I'm trying to think if there's been any other roles where I've had to do, like, a little bit of physical stuff, like, you know, falls or anything like that. I feel like everyone, you know, they usually have someone on set that's like, hey, here's the best way to do this. Or, you know, I was doing a commercial once with this company and this camera guy and director that is wonderful and so talented. And it was for pillows, actually. And you think, like, you see all these people like, fall back on these pillows, right? And so it was like, hey, we have to kind of showcase all these pillows and let's do this thing where you kind of go up a couple steps of this ladder and we'll catch you falling down on the pillows. And I was like, ain't no thing, you know, it's fine, I can do this. And so I'm leaning back and I'm like, here we go, free fall. And free falling is hard. If you guys have ever done it, you know, this trust falls and stuff, that is hard. And you're like, I'm landing on pillows. Like, okay, so I kind of psyched myself up. I was like, all right, here we go, trust fall, but make it look, you know, very luxurious, right? Because you have to keep this look on your face. No, that hurt. That was so uncomfortable. It, like, slammed me into these pillows, but I was like, oh, so great. And I was like, ow, I think I hurt my neck and my back, but we got the shot. So
the L4's off. It's like,
yes.
Ouch.
It's like there's so many things.
How far of a fall was that?
It was like, I don't know, probably it was like I had to climb up like 2 or 3 steps on a ladder, you know, that was on the foot of the bed to then fall back onto the bed. So, I mean, it was a good probably like 5-6 feet, you know, of like air to fall down there. But you just think it would just be like this cushiony thing. And it was like kind of hard. Yeah. And, you know, it's like you think of these things where, think of how many other actors, you know, not even as the stunt people, but they're like, yeah, I can do this like little thing. And they do it and they make it look so easy and real. And you're like, did that hurt? Because it kind of looked like it probably hurt. But obviously if it's done right, it doesn't hurt. So, but it's still fun.
Yeah. And they have like things called gator backs for falls like that on their back or something. So that it's kind of like
had
armor,
we known.
Basically. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a million great ways to do it. Yeah. But at that point in time, it was like, hey, here's this idea. Let's just do it. You know, and you know how that happens on set. And you're like, okay. You know, you want to be a team player and just do it. And, you know, it's one of those things too, where you're like, that'd be cool to see a shot of me doing that. You know, so you're just kind of, I want to be a team player and do it. And then you're like, oh, that wasn't as cool as I thought it was going to be.
Like now,
but if they got the shot and they're happy, then I'm happy.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, stunt work is different because I did my first like fight film with Lee Fillingsness helped out and some other people that trained the actors in Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And then like putting together this action scene and then last summer, Rahana and I both worked on Kyber Run, a Star Wars fan film. So it was like
awesome.
All these stunt people that know what they're doing, and then some actors that like were learning it over like 4 to 6 months, something like that.
Wow.
And then it's a fan film, so it was kind of like, well, none of us are going to get paid for this, but I'm in it for the experience because I want to know, like, how do you shoot an action film? You know, like.
That is
And
the choreography of that and
choreography,
making it look real is like, I mean, my hat goes off to that it takes so much. I mean, for sure. I mean, that's another thing from that Ryan Gosling movie. I was like,
yeah,
get out of here. How are they making this look so good and real? So like, yeah, when you're orchestrating this film that you're shooting yourself going, all right, we need to pull this off and make this look good, but no one actually get hit. Right. And that's, I mean, amazing.
And I love watching that film, The Fall Guy, also because it's just so, it takes you back to, you know, a set, a live full set, you know, it's just like, yes, this is where it's all happening. All these people coming together for these few minutes of film.
So much that people don't get to see, right? Like the cool car rigs with the huge cameras that are doing the drives and like so many things that you're like, whoa,
it's like,
right?
Oh, we lost that camera. Oh, it's okay. We have 3 others going right now. It's like,
like that stuff is so impressive to me. And I think that I do appreciate obviously like a set where there's like professionals and everyone's like doing it the right way, but it's like there's those nostalgic memories for me where I'm like, okay, yeah, we all did not know what we were doing. You know, I got to shoot a music video once and they're like, okay, we want you, we're some designer who's local here. This is a dress that she made and it has like 75 different layers of like this, you know, sort of sheer material and it's beautiful. And I was like, this is so cool. And they're like, so we're going to black out the back of this diving pool and we're going to have you in there just like moving around in the water because we want you to look like you're floating. Right. And I was like, cool. I used to be a lifeguard. I can swim, you know, I got this. And so they like, you know, they basically drop you into the deep end of the pool. And, you know, I'm starting to move around and what you don't realize, this is like things people don't always like think through because they've got their jobs. Okay. I need to like black this out. I need to do this camera. You know, no one's necessarily thinking about this on a small non-union music video. And all of the fabric started to wrap around my arms and legs and they had to like quick fish me out. And I was like, this is really scary. Like, this is not cool. And so they built up like a structure that I could stand on and move around. But I was like, we're going to get a couple takes and then I'm out. Like, this is pretty dangerous. But it's like those things where now I can laugh at it and be like, oh, that was a cool experience. But in the moment, I was like,
oh,
yeah, are you sure this is safe?
Right.
Like, I'm not going to die here. Like, we're doing this twice and I'm out.
Oh, boy.
That's it.
Well,
oh my goodness.
Amber, what's next for you? What's coming up? 2024.
What's next for me? So I'm currently writing 2 different, I don't know if it'd be screenplays for a feature film or for a series, but one is rom-com meets sci-fi. So that's like kind of a super fun. And then one is sort of this, I don't want to say even spin-off, but like a female version homage to a pretty classic 80s TV show. So for me, you know, I'd love to get, you know, a co-star in there with me who, you know, has, you know, done some stuff as well, who believes in the project and wants to make it come to life. But for me, it's like a lot of times, you know, you as an actor, you're like, man, I want this role. Man, I want this role. And you don't get the opportunity for it, right? Because maybe someone sees you and they just don't think you look the part for whatever it is. Like, you might be a great actor, but like you look like their ex-wife or something and you're like, nah, it's not happening. And you just have to accept that, right? And so sometimes I think I've come to the fact of accepting that, all right, if there are things that I want to do, I'll just create it for myself, you know? So that for me is something I'm like, there are some things that I want to do in film and, you know, some of the stunt stuff, some of the superhero stuff, you know, some of these things where it's like, this is going to be the most badass sci-fi Hallmark movie you've ever seen in your life. And I'm pretty pumped to, you know, bring it to life because I feel like a lot of men and women can relate to it, you know, women because of like that sort of like, whoa, we always want that romance stuff to happen to us, right? And then the dudes to be like, whoa, it's pretty sweet with the sci-fi, but you know, or vice versa. Maybe some guy likes the romance and some girl wants the sci-fi. I mean, I think I'm a good mix of liking the two of them. So that is what I'm working on. I have not written a screenplay before, so I'm, you know, eliciting a little bit of help and teaming up. But along with other entrepreneurial things I'm doing, as we mentioned in the beginning, Rowdy's Room and Willow Pod, this invention I have, I'm like just trying to fit it in, right? Because that's all we can do. So
that's exciting. I'm definitely excited to see like the progression as you get those fully written and start the process. And
yes, I will
Just
definitely
those.
share them with you guys and get some feedback. I definitely want, I don't want to just like put it out there. I want to like definitely hear from people, since obviously you guys like sci-fi, you like Star Wars stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like, I want to make sure that I am bringing honor and respect and, all of the good things to, sci-fi. And that's, I think the best part about sci-fi is you can literally tweak it any which way you want. There is no rules when it comes to that stuff. And I think that is such a beautiful thing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love that
it's
you brought up
entirely your
aliens.
creation.
I love aliens.
Yeah.
So much.
Oh my gosh, so incredible. Yeah. I feel like there's something in like one of the making ofs where they like had, I think it was like what are the racing dogs? A greyhound. They had a greyhound wearing the queen alien with like the dragging stuff, and they were like, they called the dog, and so it's like one of them is actually a dog chasing after in the scene, the dog wearing the one of the alien costumes, and it's like, dang, like who knew?
That's brilliant.
And the making ofs, oh my gosh, can we like, I could watch them all day just as I don't know if everyone loves them, but
just listening to the commentary about like how hard it was to make it and how low budget it was, what they needed, and it was just like, what? You're just thinking like,
you're like, and you pulled it off that good.
Well, that
it's like one of those things where you're like, I don't know if they could do that these days, but you guys did it, and it was beautiful, just incredible.
Right.
Yes.
That's funny. Some of the really classic 80s movies are like that, I think, because I didn't know that about Aliens, where it was like this low budget, we're going to try and just make it happen thing. But you had mentioned Dirty Dancing earlier, and that's another one where they were like, low budget, we're going to make it, no one's going to see it, move on.
Yeah.
And classic.
Just insane. Yeah. Like, oh,
it's
such a feel-good movie.
Yeah.
Such a feel-good movie.
Okay. So, Amber, where can people find your work? How can they reach out to you and connect with you when they want to work with you?
When they want to hire me. Oh, so lovely of them to ask. I would say the easiest way would be through my Instagram. Amber for Animals is my Instagram handle. I usually will post like my latest commercial work, or if I'm working on any films or past films, that kind of stuff, along with my own life stuff, mostly probably animals or saving a turtle here and there, just something, right? Nature, hugging a tree. And so I would say that would be a great outlet. I have a YouTube channel. I think it's just under my name, but I definitely have, my latest acting reel and that kind of stuff on there as well. So I think those would probably be the two best ways for people to access me. Otherwise, I'm multi-listed with all of the wonderful agents here in town. So they could reach out to a talent agency too.
Great.
Awesome. All right. And the final big question. What do you want people to remember most about you?
So is this like remember most about me as an actor or like as a human in general?
It can be whichever you prefer. It can be both. Yeah. You could have two. And it could be as an actor watching your work, or it could be as an actor working with you. You can go however you want with it.
Okay. I like that. I guess I would say I would like people to remember that anytime I would be invested in something on a set, whether that's or entrepreneur, whatever it is, that I gave my all, like my heart was always fully in it. And I would like it and hope that I would be remembered by, again, hopefully being a joy on set, being a team player. I got a really great compliment once from a director, Ryan Beck, and he had written me a letter of recommendation for another agency I was getting into out of state. And he said, Amber just gets it. Like when she's on set, she just gets it. And I know that might seem like such a small statement, but there is like this part of just kind of going, everything computes. This is natural. And I know, when to jump in and when to hang back, right? Like sometimes it's okay to interject and say, hey, I think that we could try it this way. And then sometimes you keep your acting hat on. And so I think you just to be able to feel out those moments, those people, your environment, to know when to step in and when to step back. And in general, to just, just try to be the best team player you can, support your cast and crew. And, obviously then they will hopefully support you as well. So I would say that. I would say, I would hope people remembered about me that obviously I have a huge heart for animals and nature, but that I was kind and that I stayed curious. I think that is such an important thing for all of us, to stay curious about things in life, to not pass judgments, to be excited about all the different things, to keep learning, to keep growing, to not stay stuck. And I think that I would love for people to remember my joyful curiosity. And, I'm not perfect. No one is perfect, but the excitement about certain things in life that I definitely have.
I love that.
Thanks.
You really touched all the bases, like working
Awesome.
together, watching like life, all of the things.
Yeah.
So it's perfect. Well,
I mean,
Amber,
we are the director of our own life movie, right? So
yes,
like
exactly.
we have to remember that. And I feel like sometimes we
Yes.
do forget that. And you're like, no, I actually do get to, we can't control everything by any means, but focus on the things you can control and surrender to the things you can't, and just let things unfold. So that's what I'm going to keep trying to do.
Yes. And kind of tying that back to love of animals, love of dogs,
Yes.
Or pets. I was watching one quick thing, and then we can tie it up, watching a Neil deGrasse Tyson video. And he's talking about how like dogs, like a day in their life is like a week in theirs or something like that. And he's like, and you notice that every single moment, like you could be gone to take out the trash, come back, dog is going to be thrilled and excited that you're there. Because, oh my gosh, they get to see you. And they could go in the car with you and you could go nowhere and they're going to be thrilled. And like, they want to do everything that they can with every moment that they have. And that is how
imagine if we could be like that, right?
Exactly.
Like you have a dog now, Alan, I don't know if you have a dog, but I've got to be surrounded by amazing dogs throughout my life. And even recently, that I am so grateful for. They teach us so much and they help us be better humans. And man, if we could just be as pumped as they are about life and just be present. I mean, that's the thing, we get in our heads and we listen to the negativity and all this noise instead of being like, think about it. Like, I get to drive a car. This is so cool, right? Like, this is so neat. And instead we're like, grumbling about someone driving too slow and whatever it is. So yes, be a dog, channel your inner dog.
I used to have a dog. I have a cat, but
cats are awesome.
She's adorable.
Too. And
she's sweet.
That Instagram thing that went around where it's like, you're your pet's best friend for a short time, but you're their best friend for their whole life. And it's just
makes me cry every time.
I'll start crying.
Yeah, every time.
It is like we are their whole life. And it's like, how lucky are we that they pick us to be in their life? Like what truly, truly a gift that is. And forever grateful will I be that I got to be, my being's moms and be in the lives of other dogs and maybe get to bring some happiness to their life. Like I have this tattoo on my arm that says "Be Rowdy." Rowdy was the name of one of my dogs, Rowdy and Roxy and Taylor and Gibson. And so my Be Rowdy tattoo is to remember to be rowdy because he was a joy bringer. I mean, animals are joy bringers, right? Like he wanted to put a smile on people's face everywhere. And so I just try to remember, how can I try to bring some joy in the situation if I can, even if that's just saying hello to strangers on my hike, even if they don't say hi back to me, or complimenting something or their animal. Okay. They don't have to say anything back, but if I can bring the tiniest little bit, then I've done my job and I've hopefully honored, the beings that taught us that stuff.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're going to have you back on the Patreon and just chat about all these things, because I could talk to you about this forever.
Oh,
but
you're so sweet. Thank you.
In the meantime, thank you so much again for taking the time.
Guys, thank you for having me on to talk about something I love so much with other talented filmmakers. And I love that you guys are doing this. I mean, the fact that you're bringing, this entertainment and awareness to other people, and just it's community, right? You're bringing us all together. And I love that you guys are doing that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Keep doing them.
Appreciate it. We're going to try as long as people will listen. We're here.
Heck yeah.
So thank you again. And
of course,
to our listeners and viewers, that's the word.
There you go.
This has been Filmed in Minnesota.